We are now talking to former NFL offensive tackle and current Michigan football radio broadcaster, Jon Jansen. What's up, John?
Hey, how's it going? I'm glad you guys caught me before the Lions snapped me up as the next head coach.
Well, that might happen, John.
Hey, I'm just waiting for the phone to ring. Now that I know it's a possibility, trust me, I'm getting my staff ready. I'm getting everything ready. Half those guys were my teammates anyway, so I could just inherit that staff and be all right.
Well, don't tell Jeff Saturday that.
I tell you what, how about that? That's amazing to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you guys have been talking about it. I'd love to hear your take on do you think this is a full-on tank, or does Jim Irsay really believe that this is a good move?
It's so interesting when we talk about Jeff Saturday. I've always liked him as a center. Peyton Manning has spoke highly of him, saying that he's one of the smartest players he's ever played with. He's a great center in this league. He was one of the elite centers in the NFL for 8 or 9 years.
Yeah.
Fantastic player. But then you look at Jim Irsay. This is a man that a lot of people don't like, okay? On and off the field. He does a lot of stupid things. He says a lot of stupid things. And him getting involved with this just shows you the state of where this organization is right now. So when you try to take something and try to make it stick, does it really stick? Will it stick? If it does, he looks like the smartest guy in the world. If it doesn't, he looks like the dumbest owner in the NFL. So do I think this is going to work? I don't think so. I really don't. It doesn't make sense. But again, we've seen crazier things, John. You've seen crazier things. You've been an NFL player, and you now are a radio guy. So you can see crazier things happen. But do I think this will work this year? I think that one way or another, this team is done. This offensive line is not the same offensive line we believe they were going to be in the beginning of the season. They can't stay healthy. Taylor can't stay healthy. Pittman, they can't get the ball to Pittman because they have a quarterback that doesn't even know his own name. So I don't know what's going on with this team.
You mentioned that, you think I've seen crazier, and you would think I had, especially since I spent a decade in Washington, and my first year was when Dan Snyder bought the team. But I don't know. I mean, so I had Steve Spurrier. We had Marty Schottenheimer, who was fired after 1 year, after going 0-5 and then finishing up 8-8. We had a thing rolling. Then he brings in Steve Spurrier. Then let's see, what do we have? Oh, we hired an offensive coordinator in Jim Zorn, found out that that's not the way you're supposed to do it. So instead of hiring the coach, we just promoted him to head coach, and we all know how that went. So I have seen some stuff in my day. However, I don't know. I mean, if you're trying to sell this in terms to your fan base, all you got to do is say, hey, we're going to give this a shot. We're hoping that, Jeff Saturday, settles things down. We're working on the culture. And then you shut up. You don't start talking about quartiles of quartiles of quartiles and whatever else he was talking about. I mean, he compared him to Don Shula. I heard that name thrown out there. There was a couple of other coaches that he was talking about. And as he's continuing to run his mouth, I'm sitting there going, all right, hey, we can accept the fact that you're tanking. We can accept the fact that you're going to play Sam Ehlinger and not two quarterbacks that have been to Super Bowls. But if you would just stop talking, this would go better.
It is a bold strategy when you think about it, though. I don't even mind it like that is in the season, too. Like, if you're gonna try something bold, at least experiment with it now, because I don't know if any coach would necessarily save the Colts season the way it is right now. It would take, a 9-game winning streak for them to do anything, so why not try? We've seen baseball and basketball, a lot of young players get it right away, coaching jobs.
Hell, Philly made a change. Look where they're at. They were in the World Series. They didn't win it all, but they were in the World Series.
Yep. We are talking to former NFL offensive tackle and current Michigan football radio broadcaster Jon Jansen. What were your thoughts, obviously, on Sunday on the Jets? I mean, we speak highly. We're here in New York. We're on Long Island. There's a ton of Jet fans over here. And everybody, after the week before, after the debacle of the Patriots, and everybody thought that, including all the Jets, thought that they were the better team. They had the most talent. They got beat by a team that shouldn't even have been in the same field as the New York Jets, and then going against a Buffalo Bills team that nobody thought anybody in the world believed that they were going to be actually continue to play the way they played it defensively against a very good offensive line, a very good defense. Were you surprised that the Jets did something like that against a great team like that?
I mean, yeah, I think if anybody says they're not surprised, they're lying to you. That is a shock that the Jets would beat Buffalo Bills. But you're also looking at it going, hey, the Jets are now 6-3. That, to me, is a shock from what I expected at the beginning of the season. Now, hey, Zach Wilson is he the same as Josh Allen? No, but that just goes to show you that any given Sunday, anything can go down. You can beat anybody in this league. We've seen it time and time again. I mean, let's just go back to Indianapolis. Who thought last year, at the end of the year, with Indianapolis, playoffs are on the line, that the Jacksonville Jaguars were going to beat them? Nobody was picking that. It just, and I forget who the other two was. It the
Chargers and the Raiders could have got into, and that was the whole tie controversy.
It was unbelievable. I mean, there was so much drama going into that, and we thought, okay, well, there's no chance that Jacksonville beats Indianapolis. And then all of a sudden you turn it on, you're like, holy cow, this is going on. It's the same thing with the Jets and the Bills. Josh Allen is having an MVP type of season, but it goes to show, if you throw 2 interceptions and you turn the ball over, you don't play to the level that you are expected to play at every single Sunday, then you can go to the Jets and lose, because they could play their best game. And I'm not saying they did, but you've got guys on that sideline that are NFL players, right? And the Jets aren't the Jets from, 2 or 3 years ago. They're a team that they may be young. They're not going to beat a whole lot of Buffalo Bill opponents, but right now they're sitting at 6 wins. Hell, in Detroit, we would love to have Robert Saleh and be at 6 wins.
Well, they had a chance to get Robert Saleh.
Hey, we could have had Robert Saleh. We could have kept everybody that was born and raised in Detroit. We would have a damn good team. And I tell you what, when you guys are done with Sauce Gardner after this year, trade him back to Detroit, and we'll take him back. We'll send Jeff Okudah. And let's see, who else am I going to throw in there for it? Hell, we'll give you Jared Goff. We'll just throw that one in for free.
Thank you for that great trade, by the way.
You can add all the 3 receivers that are hurt too while you're at it.
Fantastic,
and the 2 tight ends that caught touchdowns.
Well, we know you can't be a GM in the NFL.
Right, yes, no, but I do have head coaching resume.
There
My
you go.
son's team, who's a 6th grade team, we took them to the Super Bowl. So I think I'm as qualified as Jeff Saturday is.
There you go, man. See, you can think of it this way. So now Jeff Saturday could be the first trendsetter. You could be the bigger trendsetter, where you're going to be more successful. And then all of a sudden you're going to get all these offensive linemen that are becoming head coaches again. It'll be a whole ripple effect.
Hey, that's why we all become broadcasters, because we actually do know the game.
Yeah, that's true. And you do know the game. And that going into this offseason, and obviously with Michigan getting knocked off in the, I guess, the Final Four, whatever they call it, the Survival Four, whatever they call it, the Pond Four. But they got knocked out, and they looked really, really bad. And going into the offseason, nobody thought that this team was going to be a top 4, top 5 team. We talk about Jim Harbaugh. A lot of people believed that he could have been fired in the offseason because of what he did in those games. But, losing Hutchinson, losing the players that they lost in the offseason to obviously the NFL and into the draft, nobody thought that this team, this recruiting class, was going to have the season they're having. Right now, they're ranked 3rd. Are you surprised where Michigan is right now?
I am a little surprised because the biggest question mark was defense. You lose David Ojabo, who could have been a first-round pick if not for the Achilles injury. Aiden Hutchinson, obviously number 2 overall. Dax Hill, Josh Ross, who's in Baltimore, your middle linebacker. I mean, you go right down the list of guys that were high producers, not just a guy that was a Heisman contender, but guys that were producing and guys that were leaders on the team. Yeah, you're wondering, okay, where does the production come from and what happens? And not only that, but you lose Mike McDonald, your defensive coordinator. Yeah. He goes to Baltimore. You get Jesse Minter, who spent 1 year down at Valparaiso or one of those V's, and comes up to Ann Arbor. Same concept, right? They were coached together under John Harbaugh at Baltimore, but different voice, different, tenure. Just every different temperament. All of that stuff is different on defense. Now you're looking 9 games in. They've got more sacks than they had last year, more quarterback pressures. They're letting up less yardage on the defense in terms of the ground game. It's a better defense than it was last year, and that's the surprise. Offensively, I think everybody believed that this was going to be a high-powered offense. And by high-powered, I say you got a running back that can run for 150, 170 every single week. We're not necessarily airing it out. We have that ability, but we're not using it right now because we just haven't been forced to. And I asked, offensive coordinator Matt Weiss, and same question I asked Josh Gaddis last year. Why don't you throw the ball more? Because when you go against Georgia, right, you're going to have to be able to do that. We found that out last year, and they've gone deep a couple of times. And he said, right now, it's not our job to beat ourselves. It's the same thing Josh Gaddis said last year. We're still working on those things in practice, but why would we go out there and risk the football if we don't have to? We'll just hand it off to Blake Corum. We've got another Heisman contender in the performance that he's been putting through this year. So why would we risk ourselves? We'll take our shots when we have to, but they just don't feel it necessary.
Everybody thought Bijan Robinson was the only running back that could win the Heisman. Nope, not Blake Corum has entered the chat. So I wanted to ask about the comparison to last year's team. Do you see anything different when it comes to an identity perspective with this Michigan team in comparison to what they were last year? Obviously, a lot of people making a difference with J.J. McCarthy being a quarterback over Cade McNamara. Do you think that is a big difference, and maybe on the defensive side too?
Well, it's a difference in skill set. Yeah, JJ is much more mobile. He'll extend plays. He's got a stronger arm. He can go deep if he wants to. He can go deep on the run. But the one thing that he has done, especially over the last 3 or 4 weeks, when he's more comfortable in making that decision of, hey, no one is open, especially when he sees man coverage. This is when he's been really good at making that decision of no one's open. They're dropping everybody. And I've got 2 high safeties. I'm going to go ahead and tuck it and run it because there's nobody there at the second level that even knows he's running. And he's picked up some key first downs in doing so. But the identity for Michigan offensively is still run the football and be physical, dominate the line of scrimmage. Last week against Rutgers, they get the ball. And it drives me nuts that there is lack of creativity inside the red zone. Against Michigan State 2 weeks ago, they get in the red zone and they kick 5 field goals. All right. So, hey, we're going to prove a point. We're going to get inside the 5-yard line and we're going to run the ball 4 times. Hey, it's 1st and goal from the 4. You run it. Okay. Now it's 2nd and goal from the 2. You run it. It's 3rd and goal from the 1. You run it. Now it's 4th and goal from the 1-foot line. They're running right up the middle because they feel like they can. They want to make sure that their offensive line is capable of doing that. I would like to see a little bit more creativity. They did get in the end zone more. I think it was 7 trips in the red zone, 6 touchdowns. But that's where I talk about identity offensively. It's a smash mouth offense. That's what they want to be. That's what they're going to do. Luke Schoonmaker, their tight end, is going to be one of their key targets every single week. Defensively, this is where the change is in terms of identity. They don't have the Aiden Hutchinson up front that's going to win a one-on-one battle more times than not. They've got guys that can do that, like Yabayoki, the transfer in late in camp. He's been a great addition. Mike Morris is one of those guys that has come on as a senior and really had a good year. When there's a big play that has to be made, he's the guy that's making it. But Chris Jenkins is another guy. Mozzie Smith, the number 1 freak from the Athletic. He's a stud, and he's having a good year. But they don't have that one guy that can just flip that switch and say, on this play, I'm going to win. They're getting pressure from every level. Mikey Sanders still coming off the edge, the nickelback. Will Johnson, who is an absolute stud. He's wearing Charles Woodson's number 2. He's got a lot to live up to. He's a 5-star freshman. He's playing well, had his first interception against Rutgers, but they're bringing guys from every single level to create pressure on the quarterback. And they, like I said earlier, they're ahead of the game in terms of pressures and sacks than they were last year. It's just not coming from one or two guys. It's coming from everybody.